Mariana, let's start where this is all going to happen. I mean, with the focus, obviously, on education issues, busing is sure to come up, right?
Absolutely, Chris. I've been speaking to educators here and also for the past couple of months, and they tell me the candidate's record is so important. In things like teacher pay, we've seen teachers strike and rally for that in the past year and a half. How these candidates plan on keeping educators in the classroom when many teachers tell me they're having to work 2 and 3 jobs just to be able to teach. And the importance of talking about these issues in a forum like this one cannot be overlooked. The NEA, the National Education Association, has more than 3 million members. It is the largest union in the country. 1 in 39 voters lives in an NEA household. So these teachers will play a major role in picking the next Democratic candidate. And I spoke to one teacher from Hawaii today who told me that testy exchange you mentioned between Kamala Harris and Vice President Joe Biden needs to be addressed today. This is what he had to say. What have you thought about this ongoing feud at this point between the two of them as a teacher?
Well, it's very important. I come from Hawaii, where we have like a melting pot. We have so many different ethnicities and, people coming together, and we really want to see that across the country.
Who between the two of them you think is getting it right, and how does that relate to the children in your school or to your school district?
Well, I'm not going to say who's getting it right. We'll see that. That's to come.
So teachers like Osa, who we just spoke to, Chris, they will get a chance to submit questions to the presidential candidates, and we'll be looking forward to seeing how they answer those questions on stage today. And again, the outsized influence that these teachers will play in selecting the Democratic nominee cannot be underscored.
Yeah,
Chris?
So many of them were so frustrated they ran for office, and many of them won, but they definitely do have the power of the vote. Thank you, Mariana Atencio. Mike, Joe Biden heading down there to where Mariana is, and he's doubling down on his record this morning. Take a listen.
Is Kamala Harris, assuming she doesn't win outright, is she still somebody you would consider as a running mate?
Look, one of the things I'm not going to get into because it got used before is when I was asked, I don't even have the nomination, and I'm presuming who I might pick as the vice president. That's easily flipped on me and saying, well, Biden's being arrogant. Biden thinks I'll have him as my vice president. So I'm not going to comment on any individual.
Probably a smart move on his part, but what other headlines did you take away from what you heard from Joe Biden?
Well, it's interesting. That soundbite you just played reflects one of the interesting dynamics of the fact that Senator Harris was so willing to take the fight directly to Joe Biden as she did last week in the debate, which is just a couple weeks ago, months ago, we were talking about them as a potential dream ticket to a lot of Democrats. Joe Biden, you hear him today, people saying maybe that the chances of him picking her as a running mate are out, given that debate exchange, him declining to enter that speculation at all. But really, Chris, there are 3 imperatives for the Biden campaign in dealing with this busing issue, and we heard him address that again this morning. One is to defend his record, is to say, yes, he did oppose some busing, federally mandated busing, but he supported busing if it was a part of a tactic to address systemic and state and locally mandated segregation of schools. He said in those cases he would actually welcome helicopters to integrate schools if necessary. The second thing is to try to push this conversation to the present day. Where do the candidates stand on the issue of busing today? Biden says that Harris actually, they think she agrees with him that it's just one tool in a toolbox, that the focus should really be on improving education across the board. We'll hear more from them today in Houston about that. And the third thing is to say that this kind of internal squabbling among Democrats is counterproductive. You heard the vice president again invoke the name of Barack Obama to say that this circular firing squad is counterproductive. We need to be keeping the focus on Donald Trump. That's what Biden has been trying to do here in Iowa the last couple of days.
And we hear the same argument every 4 years. We heard it during the Republican primary, and look who ended up winning. So anyway, Vaughn, meantime, you have Kamala Harris disputing what, frankly, a lot of folks have been saying, that her position on busing actually mirrors Biden. We know they both support this bill in Congress that would actually go beyond busing to solve some of the segregation problems. Reset this for us. Are they concerned at all that there's some confusion about her position, and what is her position?
Exactly. This entire conversation over the last week is so nuanced and so difficult to pare down into even just a couple-minute conversation, because you're dealing with court-mandated busing, you're dealing with federally mandated busing, and you're dealing with voluntary busing on the part of localities. And so suddenly there's also the two layers. It's 1970s and 1980s part of the conversation, and then, as Mike was referencing, the conversation that is going on today. Kamala Harris just this week said that segregation today may be even worse than it was back when she was in school, in elementary school, after in the 1990s the U.S. Supreme Court began striking down these court-ordered decrees for schools to better desegregate. And so what you're hearing in this conversation is Kamala Harris just yesterday down the way over in Council Bluffs, Iowa, telling reporters that she wants Vice President Biden to come forward and acknowledge that he was wrong when he fought court-ordered desegregation busing efforts back in the 1970s. He called it an asinine concept. And while Joe Biden now, as Mike was mentioning, says that he long believed that busing in the cases of essentially state-sponsored segregation should be allowed, at the same time, he was far from being a big public advocate back in the 70s and 80s. And that's where Kamala Harris is saying that the conversation about today and what action should be taken today is separate from the 1970s. And she and her campaign want to focus on the fact that Joe Biden, who said that he wants to move on from the conversation, they want him to first acknowledge the positions that he did take back in the 1970s.
Yeah, Mike Memoli, to the point of wanting to move on, how much frustration are you sensing within the campaign that this has lasted now more than a week?
Well, there is certainly frustration that this continues to be an issue, but behind the scenes and also playing out on Twitter, we've seen Biden aides eager to try to press this issue of whether, in fact, Harris agrees with Biden now on what needs to be done. I think their argument is that they're trying to play into this idea that this was a cheap shot by Senator Harris. You heard Biden again this morning say, listen, people know me. The insinuation here that he at some point, sympathized with segregationist tendencies of other senators at the time is one that they're really hostile to. And so we have seen, even as they want to move the conversation forward to, Biden aides engaging in that conversation on social media.
Mike Memoli, Vaughn Hilliard, always great to see you out on the road there. Thank you so much.
Thank you for checking out our YouTube channel. Why don't you subscribe? It's really easy. Just click on that button down there. And for more news from MSNBC, click on any of these videos here for the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more videos from MSNBC with our newsletters. Head over to msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up.